Did just learn that legendary actor and director Robert Redford has passed away. He was 89 years old, one of the biggest stars in Hollywood in the 1970s. He was also an activist known for his political activism, as well for his founding of the Sundance Film Festival, too. We have just had it confirmed that Robert Redford has died. Robert Redford passed away at the age of 89, but public attention was stirred not only by the departure of a legend. Dustin Hoffman, his co-star in All the President's Men, did not appear at the funeral. That absence immediately raised questions. Was there always a distance between the two icons? Behind the scenes, there had been reports of clashes in working styles and a sense of coldness once they left the set. Robert admitted they didn't much like each other at first. So what lies behind this intriguing remark? The full truth is about to be revealed. On September 16, 2025, Robert Redford passed away at his private residence in the Utah mountains. The official statement from Representative Cindy Berger read, Robert Redford passed away on September 16, 2025 at his home at Sundance in the mountains of Utah, the place he loved, surrounded by those he loved. The brief wording highlighted one important detail. He departed at Sundance, the place inseparable from both his career and his legacy, and by the side of those closest to him. Robert lived to be 89. That age was no longer young, but his passing still left a profound void. For decades, he had been the representative face of an American film generation, standing both in front of the camera and behind it as director, producer, and founder of Sundance, the birthplace of countless independent filmmakers' careers. His death, therefore, was not only a personal event, but also a cultural milestone immediately recognized in solemn international headlines. Among the public tributes appeared familiar figures such as Meryl Streep, Jane Fonda, and Barbra Streisand. A few days later, Dustin also sent a remembrance. He wrote, "He was that rare person where what you see is what you get. The decency he projected in his movies was genuine. I'll miss him." The short statement, without embellishment, clearly conveyed respect for Robert's character and style. The family announced that the funeral would take place in a limited setting reserved only for relatives. For the public, the silence about time and place brought a sense of emptiness. For those closest, it was the very way of preserving the peace Robert had always wished for when stepping away from the spotlight. Dustin Hoffman did not refuse his former co-star. His absence from public view simply reflected the privacy of the ceremony. In the eyes of audiences who had followed both men's journeys, a farewell in words was already a complete presence in a closed moment. The death of Robert Redford and the brief farewell from Dustin Hoffman reminded the public of the rare bond between the two artists. But before they ever shared a frame of film, each had a distinctly different path. One was built as the handsome ideal face of classical Hollywood. The other paved the way for the image of a gritty and imperfect anti-hero. Those opposing trajectories had long existed in parallel before they converged. Two paths before the meeting. Robert Redford entered the world of art through the stage. In 1963, he had a breakthrough role in the Broadway play Barefoot in the Park, where the image of a young, handsome man with psychological depth began to draw attention. From the stage, Robert transitioned to film, quickly becoming a star with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in 1969. The film not only established his name, but also created the Sundance symbol, later used for both a film institute and a festival. Just 4 years later, The Sting premiered in 1973, further solidifying his place as one of Hollywood's brightest faces of the 1970s. In many interviews, Robert often spoke of his rebellious youth. He said, "One of the reasons I was asked to leave was that I was having too much fun. I spent too much time in the mountains, and I didn't spend enough time studying." The confession about being forced to leave the University of Colorado reflected a young man with a thirst for freedom, spending more time in nature than in classrooms. After years wandering across Europe, Robert returned to America with a clear determination to pursue acting. There is also an interesting detail. Robert was once considered for the role of Benjamin Braddock in The Graduate. Director Mike Nichols at the time wanted to experiment by choosing a perfect-looking face, but eventually rejected Robert after a sarcastic question. "When was the last time you struck out with a lady?" The implication was that he was too handsome and successful to embody a character awkward and insecure. That role ultimately went to Dustin Hoffman, and from then on, the history of cinema opened a different turn for both. Dustin Hoffman once thought he would become a musician, but gave it up to turn to the stage. In a later conversation, he admitted, "I had never thought about acting." The career switch did not come to Dustin by design, but almost by chance. From that choice, he embarked on a long journey starting at the Pasadena Playhouse, where he met fellow actors like Gene Hackman and then moving to New York to try his hand at theater. Dustin's first major success came in 1967 when he starred in The Graduate. The image of a somewhat awkward, insecure young man completely opposite the traditional handsome, leading man resonated with an American society in transition. That role turned him into the representative face of a new kind of hero. Not perfect on the outside, but authentic and relatable. 2 years later, Dustin made waves with Midnight Cowboy in 1969, playing Ratso Rizzo, a crippled, shabby hustler surviving by deceit. Speaking about the role, Dustin laughed and said, "That's no character. That's me." The remark revealed how deeply he blended himself with his character. In 1974, he further proved his range with the role of comedian Lenny Bruce in Lenny. These bold choices made Dustin a symbol of transformation and a willingness to break conventions. Though they had not worked together before 1976, the names Robert and Dustin had already been placed side by side as two parallel paths. One a star shaped by the image of the classical hero, the other an actor charting unexplored territory. That very parallel made their appearance together in an important political film later on a highly anticipated event, a historic moment. When the Watergate scandal erupted in the early 1970s, Robert Redford followed every development closely. As early as 1972, he recognized that the story carried a special weight, not only for its political consequences, but also for the way two young reporters at the Washington Post pursued the truth with persistence. Robert recalled, "I was gripped by the Watergate story from the beginning. It was about truth and journalism." For him, this was not a sensational case, but a testament to the power of the press and the social responsibility of art. In 1974, when Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein began writing All the President's Men, Robert acted quickly. He paid $450,000 to acquire the rights before the book was even published. The money came from Warner Brothers, but the idea, the determination, and the vision belonged entirely to Robert. It was a bold and risky investment since no one knew if the public wanted to revisit a political scandal that was not resolved. But Robert believed the film needed to be made and made properly. He founded Wildwood Enterprises to handle production, assigning Walter Cobbins as lead producer. Director Alan Pakula was chosen to helm the project, with William Goldman writing the screenplay. Goldman, an Oscar-winning writer, faced many challenges this time. The early drafts were too complex, overloaded with technical details. Goldman wanted to streamline it for accessibility, while Robert and Pakula insisted on preserving accuracy, drawing directly from Woodward and Bernstein's meticulous notes. Goldman later recalled, "Redford kept pushing for more details from the reporters. It was exhausting, but made the script real." Tension arose, and at times Goldman even considered quitting. But in the end, the film retained the authenticity Robert had envisioned. Robert chose to play Bob Woodward himself, the calm and meticulous journalist. To balance that, he wanted an actor with strong energy for Carl Bernstein. Dustin Hoffman was selected. In a note to Alan Pakula, Robert wrote, "His energy will balance my restraint." The concise remark revealed how Robert saw the contrast complement between himself and Dustin. Just as the real-life Woodward and Bernstein functioned together to prepare, both Robert and Dustin spent weeks inside the Washington Post newsroom. They observed how journalists moved, interacted, and verified information. Dustin recalled, "We hung out in the newsroom for weeks to get to feel Robert was obsessed with accuracy. They even practiced by memorizing each other's lines so that in dialogue, they could overlap and complete each other's sentences as in real conversations. This gave the film's exchanges a natural rhythm, tense, coherent, capturing the true atmosphere of the newsroom." The filming process also produced many anecdotes. To recreate the Post newsroom, the crew transported hundreds of desks and even real trash bins from the office to the Burbank studio. Every sheet of paper, every small detail was either replicated or brought directly from the newsroom to enhance authenticity. These efforts stemmed not only from director Pakula, but also from Robert, who constantly urged everyone to stay true to reality. When the film premiered in 1976, it made an immediate impact. All the President's Men grossed over $70 million, a substantial figure for its time, while receiving 8 Oscar nominations and winning 4, including Best Supporting Actor for Jason Rhodes as Editor-in-Chief Ben Bradley. The film was hailed as a benchmark for political journalism cinema, both compelling and faithful to truth. In 2010, it was placed in the National Film Registry, affirming its place as a cultural milestone. More importantly, the film turned Robert and Dustin into an unforgettable screen duo. Robert praised his co-star. "Dustin has one of the most wonderful acting minds I've ever worked with." The brief statement revealed the deep respect he had for his partner. Their collaboration created a Woodstein, the blend of Woodward and Bernstein that became iconic. For audiences, this was a rare moment when two actors, each representing opposite styles, blended seamlessly. Robert's restraint moved in step with Dustin's energy, creating a perfect rhythm. It was not only a successful collaboration in one film, but also proof of the way two individuals, two acting approaches, and two paths could complement each other. After the Watergate peak, their paths diverged again. One became a symbol of independent cinema. The other continued with a diverse, turbulent range of roles. But while their careers moved in different directions, the shared imprint of the 1976 film remained a lasting bond between them. The tragedy behind the glory. After the success of All the President's Men, Robert Redford did not stop at the position of a screen star. He shifted toward directing and immediately left his mark. His directorial debut, Ordinary People, released in 1980, earned him the Oscars for Best Director and Best Picture. That flawless beginning paved the way for a long directing career. In the years that followed, he continued with Quiz Show in 1994, highly praised by critics, and The Horse Whisperer in 1998, where he both directed and starred. But Robert's influence did not lie only in personal works. In 1981, he founded the Sundance Institute. Only a few years later, the Institute launched the Sundance Film Festival, which quickly became the most important platform for American independent cinema. Many filmmakers who would later become major names, from Quentin Tarantino and Steven Soderbergh to Chloe Zhao, began there. Sundance was not merely a festival, but a symbol of an alternative cinema, a counterpoint to mainstream Hollywood. Alongside his artistic career, Robert devoted many years to environmental causes. His reports and speeches regularly emphasized concerns about climate change. In one of his final interviews, he was acknowledged as someone who used his name to sound the alarm about global warming. The combination of art and social activism made Robert a rare figure, an artist who not only left behind films, but also a lasting impact on politics and the environment. But behind the spotlight were private losses. Robert endured the devastating pain of losing his first son, Scott, who died in 1959 only months after birth. In 2020, he faced the death of his son, James, from liver cancer. In a brief statement, James's wife, Sybil Sagers, wrote, "Jamie died today. We're heartbroken." Those two tragedies left deep scars in Robert's life, making him often avoid speaking about family in public. If Robert expanded his career into multiple fields, Dustin Hoffman continued along the acting path with unceasing transformation. In 1979, he won the Oscar for Best Actor with Kramer vs. Kramer, portraying a divorced father fighting for custody of his son. Nearly a decade later, he won his second Oscar with Raymond in 1988, playing a man with autism. These two awards cemented Dustin's status as one of the finest actors of the 20th century. Beyond those works, Dustin left many other marks. Tootsie in 1982 told the story of a male actor disguising himself as a woman to land a role, becoming one of the most notable comedies of the decade. In 1991, he appeared in Steven Spielberg's Hook, and by 1997, he returned with Wag the Dog, a political satire that remains relevant. Still, Dustin's career was not without failure. In 1987, Ishtar premiered and was instantly deemed one of the biggest flops of the decade, bringing him heavy criticism. Dustin's private life also had darker notes. In 2013, he underwent surgery for cancer, fortunately detected early and successfully treated. 4 years later, he faced a wave of sexual harassment allegations. Several women recalled uncomfortable experiences working with him in the 1980s. In public, Dustin issued an apology. "I have the utmost respect for women and feel terrible that anything I might have done could have put her in an uncomfortable situation. I am sorry." The apology did not silence the controversy, but it showed that he chose to face the accusations directly rather than remain silent. In retrospectives years later, the professional relationship between Robert and Dustin was still recalled as an example of difference in complement. Robert admitted they didn't much like each other at first, but they had to work together. By the end, it was seamless. Dustin also emphasized Redford, and "I learned each other's lines." It created that rhythm. Producer Walter Coblins, who was directly involved in the project, recounted Redford and Hoffman clashed on set pacing, but resolved through mutual respect. Such behind-the-scenes stories, when revisited, did not overshadow the film, but instead reinforced the uniqueness of the collaboration between two men from contrasting styles. And when old age arrived, what remained in public memory was not only those ups and downs, but also the way they spoke of each other and the legacies they left behind. The legacy of two icons. In 2013, in the documentary All the President's Men Revisited, Robert looked back on that experience with a rare sense of satisfaction. He said, "Working with Dustin was a joy. His intensity matched the story's tension." The remark was not only a professional evaluation, but also a reflection of the mutual respect between two artists who had begun from contrasting styles. In the same film, Dustin offered Robert words that were simple, deeply meaningful. Bob's vision made the film timeless. This statement showed how he regarded his co-star not merely as a colleague, but as the decisive force who transformed a complex political story into a lasting work of art. When Robert passed away, Dustin sent a tribute that was brief, unembellished, powerfully connected. It closed a circle spanning half a century from the days when they sat together in the recreated newsroom in Burbank to the moment when Dustin remembered Robert in a few heartfelt lines. Those words gained even greater weight when placed within the full context of their careers. Robert left behind Sundance as a foundation for independent cinema, opening a path for many young directors to step onto the world stage. He did not only build a festival, but created an ecosystem that made American cinema more diverse and dynamic. Alongside that, Robert was also recognized for his environmental efforts, from speeches to advocacy campaigns, shaping the image of an artist tied to social responsibility. Dustin, by contrast, left a different legacy. He stood as proof of the power of immersive acting, willing to embody characters neither easy nor glamorous. From the bewildered Benjamin Braddock in The Graduate to Raymond Babbitt in Raymond, he expanded the boundaries of what it meant to be a movie star. For Dustin, an actor did not need perfect looks to be the center of the story. That approach influenced an entire generation, paving the way for names like Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, and many others to continue exploring character depth. The parallel presence of Robert and Dustin, though not frequent, created a dual legacy. One built institutions for independent cinema and left a mark on the political stage. The other shaped the art of performance with roles rich in humanity. Their paths diverged together. They helped transform the face of American cinema. If you're interested in the stories behind the screen and the legacies of film legends like Robert Redford and Dustin Hoffman, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss upcoming videos. Don't forget to like and share this video so more people can look back on a historic chapter of Hollywood.